Hi guys, welcome back to Heritage Homestead. I'm Marta if you're new here, and today we are making good old-fashioned bread and butter pickles. Today I'm also excited to give away a gift. Let's see if I can hold this. Okay, I've got 100 wide mouth ForJars lids and 100 regular mouth ForJars lids. We're approaching peak canning season and I want to share these with you. So stick around to the end of the video and I'll tell you how you can be entered into the drawing. I'm going to start with salting my cucumbers and my onions to draw out some of their juices and help them stay crisp. These are Boston pickling cucumbers if you're curious. I cut them to about 1/4 inch and throw away the ends. The ends aren't great for pickling. Pickling cucumbers have a slightly firmer flesh, so that's why they're good for pickling. It helps them stay firm when they're being submerged in brine, but you can use any kind of cucumber you want. Just pick it while it's young and tender. I'm going to combine these veggies into this big bowl. I wish I had a colander big enough for all of them, but I don't, so that's okay. The salt is going to draw moisture out of them, and then I'll just drain it through a colander and we'll get that moisture removed. So that's 2 onions and 6 pounds cucumbers. Oh! An end snuck in there, get that out. And I am going to pour a 1/2 cup of salt over that. It's important to use a salt that doesn't have iodine or anti-caking agents added. Those are not good for canning. So your average table salt is no good. If something's labeled a canning salt or a pickling salt, that would be good. You'll also sometimes find kosher salts that don't have anything added. I'm using my Redmond real salt. I use it for everything. I like that pretty pink color, but best of all, I just like its flavor and then it doesn't have anything added. Now I'm going to cover this with a dishcloth. And I'll cover that with ice. And that's going to go into the fridge. Just ignore my chaotic fridge. I'm getting close to the end of that 3-hour chill time for my cucumbers, so I'm going to start prepping my jars for canning. If you're newer to canning, pickles and jams are a great place to start. So I'll show you how to prep your jars. You're in the right place. This is very doable. If you're not newer to canning, I've marked this chapter so you can feel free to skip ahead to making the brine. Jars are typically warmed before canning because we want to avoid thermal shock. The brine that we put in is going to be hot. Then when we put these into the boiling water, they'll be hot again, and you don't want to shock jars with sudden temperature changes. So we're going to make sure the jars are warm and are ready to receive the hot brine. So I'm just starting with loading my jars, and this recipe makes about 8 pints. And I'm going to fill the jars and the pot so that I have about 1 inch of water over them. And I've set the heat to low. We don't want to boil the water. I'm just trying to keep the jars a bit warm so they're ready to be filled. Now I'm ready to make the brine. Let me show you our lineup of ingredients. We've got vinegar, sugar, mustard seeds, turmeric, celery seed, and garlic fresh from last week's harvest. This is my grandma's recipe that I'm making today, and so these are the seasonings that she uses and the flavor that we like. Or actually, it's the flavor that John really loves, my husband John. I'm a dill pickle person personally, but he loves bread and butter pickles, and he especially loves my grandma's bread and butter pickles. She doesn't make them anymore, and I did not make them last year, so this year I promised him I'm gonna make them for him. I mention this to tell you that the seasonings in this recipe can be tweaked without altering the safety of the recipe at all. The thing that makes this recipe safe for water bath canning is the vinegar. We're going to make a brine that's mostly vinegar. It'll have a bit of water in it, but the vinegar is what makes this a high acid recipe that's safe for water bath canning. So dried seasonings can be altered and you're still completely safe. If you want to add crushed red pepper flakes or peppercorns or cloves. These are all things that I often see in other bread and butter pickle recipes. So feel free to alter to your tastes. If you don't want garlic in your bread and butter pickles, not everybody uses that. We like it, that's how Grandma does it, but you can feel free to add things and remove things to make this just the way you and your family will like. I'm starting off with 3 cups of white vinegar. A lot of older recipes will call for equal amounts of vinegar and sugar. I'm going to add a little bit of water, 2 cups of water actually. That's 2 cups of water. And that way there's not as much need for a ton of sugar to offset the vinegar. There's still enough vinegar in here to make the recipe safe. And then I'm going to use a little bit less sugar than Grandma used. I'm adding 3 cups of sugar. Yes, that is a reduction to the original recipe, believe it or not. Some of you know I can't actually eat sugar right now, so this is for John. I think he'll really enjoy it. I've seen him eat an entire quart jar of Grandma's pickles in one day, so I think he can handle these 8 pints on his own. Next is a tablespoon of mustard seeds, 2 teaspoons turmeric. That color is so pretty. That will color the brine nicely, give it a golden hue. And 2 teaspoons celery seed. Just realized I haven't sliced these yet. I'm going to slice them thinly. This is the very first use of my year's supply of garlic. I harvested those 60 heads with you last week. Smells good. I'm going to add those garlic slices. And then this is going to just heat on low. Wow, that's thick with sugar. All right, let's check on these cucumbers. I'm gonna get this ice off of them. Let me see if I can show you. Look at all that liquid that was drawn out by the salt. So we need to drain this and rinse it, because the salt was for drawing the liquid out. We don't really want super salty pickles. All right, we are finally ready to fill our jars. These are fairly hot at this point, so I'm going to use my tongs. I'm going to fill these jars pretty full. I'm kind of stuffing things down in there, but I'm going to only fill to about this ring. The brine will fill to a 1/2 inch of headspace, and I like to make sure there's brine over all of the substance, so I'll stop right about here for the substance. I realized I think I went a little bit onion heavy in the first half, and there might not be as many for the second half. If you can, try to distribute throughout. Do as I say, not as I do, I guess. Oh, there's more down here. We'll be all right. Wow, that worked out to the perfect amount. No leftovers, no shortages. Maybe I'll shuffle a little bit here. All right, let's add this beautiful golden brine. I'm just going to use my headspace tool to work the air bubbles out of the jars. Air bubbles can work their way up during canning and affect the headspace, which can affect the seal. For example, right here, you can see there's a few air bubbles. So I'll just work this to the bottom, and all those bubbles are making their way out. There's a lot of air bubbles in here. I've just put on a kettle of hot water. I'll need to top off this headspace a little bit, and I have come to the end of my brine. You don't want to top off headspace with a lot of water because that could impact the vinegar ratio and the safety. But if you're just doing a tiny top off, should be fine because this still has a high vinegar to water ratio. So I need a 1/2 inch headspace. That means I'm going to this second notch. I'll put the second notch on the edge of my jar, and then I want this part to just touch the top of the liquid. So this does not have enough liquid in it. I'll top it off. I just remembered that John had asked if I could make a few of these hot as an experiment. We've never tried doing hot bread and butter pickles. I've got a few hot peppers in my fridge. I'm so glad I didn't forget this. I'm gonna cut some of them and just make 2 of these jars into hot bread and butter pickles. Here are my hot pepper slices. My mom gave me these and I don't actually remember what they are. They might be Hungarian wax. I'm gonna just heat up these 2 jars on the end. So I will take out a few of their cucumbers because they're pretty full. And then I will add these to the mix. And I'm gonna make sure that I label these jars so we know what's what, because we don't wanna be surprised by heat. A lot of our family is not big on spice, so I don't wanna accidentally serve them something they will not enjoy. Okay, 2 on the end are the hot peppers. I'm gonna wipe these rims. I've got a damp paper towel and I'm just wiping down these rims because I know that some brine has splashed onto them. You can see, there it is. And I want to be sure they're clean so that when the lids go on, they're ready for a good seal. We're ready for lids and bands. I've had my lids soaking in a bit of water. That just helps to activate this seal. I'm using my ForJars lids. I've used these for about 2 years. I like them because they're a little bit thicker than other lids I've seen, and they just tend to seal, which is all I want from a lid. I mentioned that I'm giving some away today. ForJars noticed that I've mentioned them in some of my videos, and so they sent me a little bit of merchandise, and I wanted to share the best part of that with you. So after we get these into the canner, I'll tell you how you can enter to win 200 ForJars lids. And if you're interested in buying any, you can use code HERITAGE and they'll give you 10% off. And then my bands are going to go on to fingertip tight. So you're not trying to crank it on as tight as possible, just going a 1/4 turn past the point of first resistance. If you're a canning beginner, it can be tempting to think that really cranking on that ring can help it seal, but the job of the ring is just to hold the lid in place. It's the lid that does the sealing, well, the lid and the heat. So you don't need to rely on that band to hold everything together. I'm gonna load these into my canning rack. Most people load theirs with the canning rack over the pot. Oh, I need to turn this back on. But I have just knocked mine down into the pot and burned myself too many times. So I don't know why I can't handle that. I do it this way. They should be covered with at least 1 inch of water. While that's processing, let me tell you how you can enter the ForJars canning lids giveaway. So like I said, I'm giving away 100 wide mouth and 100 regular mouth lids. I'm gonna give them all away together as a bundle. So that's 200 lids. If you're an avid canner, that's probably a summer for you. If you're new to canning, that might sound like a lot, but these never go bad and canning's kind of addicting, so this can just be a couple years supply then. The only thing you need to do to enter the giveaway is comment on this video. If you're newer to this channel, you could introduce yourself. I'd love to get to know you. Or you could tell me about something you're planning to can. If you want these lids, I'm sure you have intentions of canning something. Tell me what you think you're going to be canning in the next few months. I love to know what other people are working on. The giveaway will be open for 10 days. So today's July 20th. On July 29th at 11:59 p.m., I'm gonna close down the potential to enter the giveaway. And then I will use a random number generator and just count the comments and find the person who aligns with the number. I'll post a video announcing who the winner is, so be on the lookout for that video if you've entered so that you can find out if it's you. All right. These have had 10 minutes to boil. I've turned off the heat and I'm gonna give it 5 minutes to just cool off a bit. Then we'll pull them out. Let's see how we did. I always get excited about pulling things out of the canner. Want to make sure everything looks good in there. Looks good so far. And of course, once I got these in, I realized that I had fully intended to label the hot ones and I didn't. So it'll just be a fun little guessing game which one that is. Maybe I'll be able to see the peppers. The color's beautiful from that turmeric. Oh, I think I see a pepper there. It might just be an onion. You can see that they haven't sealed yet. I won't touch it, but that part's still up. I'm waiting to hear the pop. Yeah, this hasn't sealed yet either. Oh, there's a pop. Nice. Ah, it's a reassuring sound. Thanks for spending some time with me making my grandma's pickles. I know that John is going to enjoy these for the next several weeks or months. I'm not sure exactly how long. We'll see. Oh, there was another pop. Feel free to leave a comment if you want to enter into the giveaway, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Until then, bye.